Hello, and welcome to the mental health series here at Living Waters Lutheran Church in Crystal Lake. We're very excited that you are joining us today, whenever and however you are. We designed this series to be online so you can watch this from the comfort of your own home or any way that is most comfortable for you. The idea is this series is accessible. In all our episodes, this is season 3, but all episodes from season 1, 2, and 3 are on our YouTube channel or the website that can be found in our social media bio. We have Elisa Crawley with us today. She is from Turning Point Inc., which is the county's only domestic abuse shelter and provides services for those who are suffering from abuse and those who need to rehabilitate from committing abuse. We very much support their work here at Living Waters, and we're very happy Elisa has joined us again. I think she holds the record for the most appearances here on the series. She's certainly been in every season, all 3 seasons so far, so I guess she's the record holder. And this is February when this is being recorded, if you're watching this later. And February is Teen Dating Violence Awareness Month. And so Alyssa's going to be presenting about dating violence and how it looks, and perhaps abuse looks different than just what we normally think of. And she will do an emphasis on teens given this month, but all this applies to everyone. Domestic violence does not know any age, socioeconomic status, race, location. It's everywhere. So this is a true need and obviously impacts our mental health in many ways. We want to have healthy and thriving relationships in our life. So without further ado, I'm going to turn it over to Elisa, and she'll present great as always.
Hi, my name is Elisa. I'm the Director of Outreach and Community Engagement at Turning Point Domestic Violence Agency. I want to thank Living Waters for having us here once again to do a presentation. This month is Teen Dating Violence Awareness Month, so we're going to dive into healthy relationships and dating violence when it relates to teens, but also a lot of this is applicable to adults. So many of you know and may have seen me at your church before, but Turning Point is the only comprehensive domestic violence agency here in McHenry County. We were founded in 1981, making us 43 years old this year, and we're located in Woodstock, right by the Culvers and the Farm and Fleet. I will go over our services towards the end of the presentation as well. So why are we talking about teen dating violence, and why is there a whole month devoted to this topic? Well, 1 in 3 teens in the United States is a survivor of physical, sexual, verbal, emotional, or abuse from a dating partner. 1.5 million high school students are going to experience physical abuse from a dating partner in just a single year. And 1 in 5 victims say they experience digital abuse or harassment in schools during school hours, but most takes place away from school grounds. Unfortunately, 81% of parents believe teen dating abuse is not an issue or admit they did not know it was an issue. And I think when we look at all these statistics here, we see that unfortunately these numbers are very high with teens, and that us as adults are not paying attention or talking about this topic enough, which is why we're discussing things today. So what is dating violence? So domestic violence, intimate partner violence, and dating violence can all be used as the same definition, which is the willful intimidation and abusive behaviors part of a pattern of power and control from one intimate partner against another. Domestic violence is intentional. It's a repeat pattern of behaviors. They're going to employ multiple tactics for the purpose of gaining power and control over the survivor. It really intentionally destroys someone's self-esteem and self-worth. It's not caused by substance misuse, which is a common misconception. Just because I'm drinking or high does not mean I am doing the abuse. I'm still choosing to do those things, but it can escalate violent behavior. It's also passed down through generations. So if we only witness or experience unhealthy or abusive relationships growing up, we're much more likely to end up in an abusive relationship ourselves. It's really modeling the behavior, which we're going to talk about today, and something we can do as an adult to help support better, healthy relationships with teens. It also does not discriminate, so anybody can be a victim of domestic violence. It does not matter race, age, gender, sexuality, religion, education level, or economic status. There's a lot of different types of abuse, and so often on a crisis line or the work I do, I hear, well, they've never hit me but, or they never hurt me physically but. And there's so many more types of abuse than just physical. But let's dive into each one of these. So with physical abuse, it's going to be harming anybody physically. So hitting, kicking, punching, anything like that, but also stopping somebody from leaving or calling the police, reckless driving, and damage or dismantling of property. So punching holes in walls, breaking things, threatening to cause harm, maybe cocking your hand back to hit, but not actually hitting, are all types of physical abuse that can also be very intimidating, even without touching someone's body. Verbal abuse is going to be yelling, belittling, calling someone names, screaming, overall just making them feel small and really diving into that self-esteem and self-worth. Mental abuse can also be known as psychological or gaslighting or manipulation. It really is making somebody over time feel like they're going crazy, feeling like anything that they are saying is not true, and just really starting to believe what that abuser or perpetrator wants that survivor to believe. Financial abuse is going to be all the control over the money, with either somebody making all the money and not letting their survivor have access to those funds, or asking the survivor to make all that money and not, once again, giving them those access to funds. In teen dating, this is going to look a little bit different. You know, a lot of times we're not sharing households at this point. So for teens, it could be not letting them go to work, maybe showing up at their work, calling their work, just kind of giving them distractions or forcing them to not be able to make their own money or things like that. It can also be taking advantage of people and their money. So maybe asking them to pay for everything, but kind of those early on pieces before we actually are sharing an income together. Sexual abuse is going to be very straightforward. This is consent or not. So if somebody is not consenting to things, if they're not giving that enthusiastic yes, we need to make sure to be aware of what type of abuse that is. With stalking and digital, they unfortunately go hand in hand these days. I still do see traditional stalking with people following people to class, wondering where they are, following their cars, but a lot of it now is done through phones. So it might be having your location on, having a tracking app on, constantly calling, texting, harassing them, asking them to FaceTime to prove where they are, things like that. As we're looking at this slide, I want you to think about, how do these types of abuse differ with teens and adults? I mentioned the financial, but do you think any of these other types may be different in a teen world versus an adult world? As I already kind of mentioned, this consent with sexual abuse, and this is a great tool for anybody talking about consent. So this is called the consent prize, and consent means giving someone a choice about touch or action and respecting their answers. Consent is freely given, so both people have the freedom to say yes or no. There's no pressure, force, or manipulation. It is reversible. Anyone can change their mind at any time to stop whatever is happening. It is informed. All partners need to know exactly what they're consenting to every single time. It's enthusiastic. Partners should be excited and engaged in what's happening, and it should be specific. Each act requires consent each time, even if you've done it before. One of my favorite sentences I was using this last year, and I'm going to bring it into 2024, is no is a full sentence. If somebody is telling me no, I shouldn't have to ask them why, and they shouldn't have to give me an explanation. And same if I'm telling someone no, I shouldn't have to tell them why or give them an explanation of why I'm saying no. I should respect their answer, and they should respect mine. So teens and dating in a digital world, diving a little bit more into that digital abuse, it is very common for teens to share passwords, locations, and logins. Having conversations about why they think they want to share those things with friends or significant others. If they say it's because of trust, dive into what trust means and why we think that trust means I have your location 24/7. A lot of us as adults that maybe didn't grow up with location sharing know that trust is something we have to build and cannot just be given right away in a relationship. Anytime we're talking about teens and dating, there is an expectation to send photos and texts that may be of an explicit nature. I always tell teens 3 things before they send something. Do you want to do it? Is it something that you're comfortable with? You're not feeling forced or pressured? If you send it, you cannot take it back, and it will be out there in the world for that person to do what they want with it. And third, if we're under the age of 17, which is the age of consent in the state of Illinois, it can be illegal. So being mindful of what we are sending and why we're sending it. We also see that partners are telling each other what they can and cannot post on social media or online. They're connected 24/7, so there's no break, there's no time apart, it's just constant. Other ways that teens are connecting is using Google Docs for school. There's also ways that you're just messaging each other in there, and it can be deleted because it is a way to text and to talk, and using different apps to chat instead of texting. So if you are monitoring your teen's text, there might be other ways that they are doing that through Instagram messaging or Snapchat or Discord or so many other online social media apps. There's also something called a Vault app, which looks mostly like a calculator on the main screen of someone's phone. But when you go into it and put in a passcode, there's actually places where you can hide videos, documents, photos, and things like that. So being mindful of what your teen is hiding, and also why are they hiding it? Have they had the opportunity to talk to you? Do they feel comfortable talking to you? And having more conversations along digital safety and healthy relationships. There is some differences in domestic violence and dating violence in the LGBTQIA+ community. They're going to have the same types of abuse and tactics, but there are also some things that are significant to just this community. Things like othering the survivor. So say I'm dating a trans person and I am heterosexual cisgender. I may tell that person that I'm the normal one, or I'm not different like them. Threatening to out the survivor, especially if that person isn't out to their community or other people. Denying that abuse can exist in a queer relationship. If there's 2 women dating, sometimes it's looked at of there's not that big guy causing the harm, and so people question if it can still be abusive. That absolutely can. And then verbal abuse and derogatory language, using any slurs or language that is specific to that community and specific to that person as part of the queer relationship. As you can see, these all fall into the normal abuse categories, but they are special to the queer community. Whenever we're talking about an abusive relationship, we have to talk about the cycle of violence. This is what people get into as they continue into an abusive relationship. Most of the time, we're going to be in the tension phase. So feeling like something bad is going to happen, walking on eggshells, feeling like everything has to be perfect, and really just being concerned of what's going to happen next. Then we're going to go into the crisis. This is when something bigger happens than the tension. It doesn't have to be a giant physical fight, but it's going to be those same abuse tactics used in the tension phase escalated into something bigger. And then we're going to end up in the calm phase. I'm so sorry that happened. I never meant to do it. It will never happen again. Here's some gifts. I'm going to love bomb, which is using, those positive languages in a negative, manipulative way. And then we're going to end right back into the tension phase. As domestic violence and dating violence survivors continue through this cycle with their partner, after a while, the calm phase is going to start to go away, and we're just living in tension and crisis 24/7. I've shown this video before, but it just explains the cycle of violence so well that I wanted to show it again so that we could talk a little bit about how this shows how subtle the cycle of violence can really be in an abusive relationship.
Because I love you. I want to be your only guy.
Because I love you, skip class with me. Let's stay in bed today.
Because I love you, I just want to be with you so freaking much.
Because I love you.
I waited for you after Chem Lab.
You were walking with Mark?
Because I love you.
You shouldn't be hanging out with that dude.
You should know how dumb that makes me look.
I don't care if she's your lab partner.
Why do you have texts from him?
Because I love you. This number,
Delete.
Because I love you. This Jason number?
delete.
And Ben,
Delete.
because I love you, I should smash your phone.
I'll let you give me your password instead.
Because I love you.
I will check your texts every day.
You got lucky.
Because I love you.
Because I love you.
You think it's okay.
Because I love you. You understand.
Because I love you, you stop talking to your classmates, and you feel completely alone.
Because I love you. That's not love.
One Love is an amazing resource for anything to do with teen dating violence and has so many resources. Definitely recommend checking out their website. Now, if we dive into this video, what do you think the types of abuse that happened in this video were? Did we get all of them? Were there some of them? Take a second and think. So in this video, we definitely saw digital, asking for their passwords, who do you have texts from, really paying attention to the phone. A lot of verbal with yelling and name calling and belittling. Physical, when we said we were going to smash their phone, so damaging someone's property. Mental, there was a lot of manipulation and gaslighting throughout this conversation. Stalking, they were asking who their lab partner was, who were they walking with. And some people can argue financial for two reasons. One, if these kids are in college, they're saying to skip class and hang out with them, which is not a good financial move. But two, damaging someone's phone or breaking their stuff could also be under that financial category. So as we watch the video too, where do you think we went from tension to crisis? And I will say, I always get a little joke when someone tells me when the music changed, which definitely the music changed, the voices got louder, they got more angry. But when did we make that actual change from tension to crisis? So if we go back to the video in the tension phase, who do you have text from? Why are you walking with him? Who's Mark? You should give me your password, just all of these things. And then it said, I should smash your phone, but you can give me your password instead. The threat of violence was not there in that tension phase until we got to the crisis phase. So we were threatening a lot of things, and then we actually threatened physical harm, and then we went right back to the calm. I'm only doing this because I love you. I'm not trying to hurt you. And then we go back into the tension. As the cycle continues, cycles are going to continue to escalate. So the type of abuse might get more severe or worse. So next time they go through the cycle, they might go ahead and smash the phone. And then they might buy them a new phone and say, look, I got you the best new phone. But now they have control over that new phone. So usually whenever I'm out in the community or when I say the work I do, I hear, well, why do people stay? There's so many reasons why people stay in relationships. And while I was putting together this teen dating violence presentation, I thought to myself, maybe I should change this slide from the adult slide and change it differently for teens. And I realized to myself that both teens and adults have the same big amount of reasons why to stay with somebody. Ones that I hear a lot on the phone are safety. It's not safe if I leave, which is true. It's actually the most dangerous time in an abusive relation after somebody leaves. They think the abuse is normal or not that bad. There's threats of suicide or self-harm. There's that hope for change. You love that person and there's a reason you got together with them in the beginning. And after a while, when you have all these reasons to stay, we call this the bird cage. All of those bars around that person are now reasons why they are staying in the relationship. And when you have so many reasons to stay, it is even harder to try to leave. By giving somebody support, which we'll talk about in a little bit, we can start pulling some of those bars away and giving them some of the tools to be able to leave. Now, if I'm going to ask the question why people stay, I need to also ask the question, well, why do people abuse? Abuse is a learned behavior, and because it's a learned behavior, people can change if they want to. Some people that are abused choose to use harm in their relationship, have witnessed or experienced this growing up from friends, pop culture, structure, their childhood home. And while these outside factors of drugs and alcohol can escalate the abuse, it's important to know that that does not cause the domestic violence abuse themselves. I will talk about this a little bit more at the end, but we do have a program specifically for people who choose to use harm. And it's so important to let people know that they can change if they want to, but it is not the victim or survivor's job to help somebody change. So when we're talking with teens, there's some simplified ways we can talk about it, because diving into the definition of domestic violence might not always be the thing that gets their brains moving or understanding how to have this conversation. So one thing is we can definitely look at the healthy relationship signs. 10 healthy signs of a relationship can be trust, honesty, independence, respect, equality, kindness, healthy conflict, comfortable pace, taking responsibility, and having fun. Where unhealthy signs are going to be intensity, possessiveness, deflecting responsibilities, manipulation, isolation, sabotage, belittling, guilting, violation, and betrayal. When you look at these 10 signs, do you have examples of these? Do you think that some of these signs make more sense to you than others? What would be the hardest for you to give an example of? And what do you think is the most important in a relationship? Is your healthy relationship sign not on there? It's something that you thought would be one that would be a big one for you is not actually on our list. Having conversations with ourselves and our teens about these signs is so important, and asking what we think a healthy relationship looks like. We are not taught these things very early, and so having conversations about it is so important. For me, my number one is actually not on our list, and my number one in a healthy relationship is safety. Safety was something I didn't really understand until I was able to get into a relationship that felt safe, and I understood what that actually meant and felt like in a relationship. There also is a scale. I don't want you to walk away and think there's only healthy and abusive relationships. There's also a middle ground. We all know a couple or people, or maybe even ourselves, who got into a toxic or unhealthy relationship at one point where we both just weren't the right fit for each other. So healthy relationships are going to have that communication, that respect, that trust. Unhealthy, we're going to start having bad communication. Maybe we're disrespectful to each other. Maybe we have a lot of distrust with each other. We're abusive, we're going to have harmful communication, mistreatment, and accusing other people of that mistrust with cheating accusations or things like that. So we can see that there is a scale. There's another great resource called loveisrespect.org. And on that website, there's actually quizzes where you can find out where your relationship ranks on this scale, or other quizzes of if you're a healthy partner and things like that. Great resource for anyone. So I do want to walk through just a few scenarios for you to do at home and really think about how these scenarios look when it comes to teen dating. So asking those questions of, is it healthy and healthy or abusive? And what types of abuse are they experiencing? So our first scenario here. Recently, you and your partner have been disagreeing a lot. It often leads to arguments. Every time you try to talk to them about how you're feeling, they say it's no big deal, you're overreacting, or they just don't want to argue anymore. You feel that the issues are important and want a chance to say how you feel without having to argue. After a day of not speaking, you text your partner and tell them you want to talk now or the relationship is over. They text back and say they will talk when they are ready. So I want you to think for a moment, is this relationship healthy, unhealthy, or abusive? If abusive, what types of abuse are they experiencing? Pause it here to really think about that, and then start playing again to do the discussion. So when we're thinking about this relationship, I think this one definitely falls into the category of unhealthy, leaning towards the abusive category, but both people are not communicating well in this relationship. The one person clearly wants to talk right away, and the other person after an argument clearly needs some time. Both are okay. Some people are very different of how they like to deal with things after an argument or an uncomfortable situation. Instead of just focusing on themselves, they could have had a conversation, and the first person could have said, can you give me a timeline of when you'll be ready to talk? The second person could have said, I'm not really sure, but I think I will try to call you tomorrow around this time. I just need some time to think about this, and I need some time to myself. Having conversations and letting people know why you need a moment or why you need to have time or why you need to talk it out right away is going to help a lot of miscommunication and getting our feelings hurt. Jumping to instantly saying, I'm going to break up with you if you don't talk to me, might not be the best way to have that person who needs space be able and be ready to talk. So looking ahead, how can we support youth in unhealthy or abusive relationships? As I said earlier, talking about healthy relationships and modeling examples of healthy relationships is going to be one of the best ways to give youth a chance to understand what a healthy relationship is. Believe youth when they tell you what happened to them. Don't instantly make it small or like it's not happening. Believe them when they're telling you. Avoid victim blaming. Don't say things like, well, how did you end up in this relationship? Well, why did they treat you that way? Making sure that you're talking to them, understanding that it is not their fault that they got into this abusive relationship or their fault that they're being treated this way. Support them, but also let them lead the conversation. If someone's talking to you for the first time about their unhealthy or abusive relationship, they're going to want to get everything out sometimes. Let them get things out. Let them talk. Let them have that moment. Refer them to people that can help. It's okay to refer out and say, I don't know all the answers. It's okay to have conversations and connect them with resources. Be transparent if you have to report the incident. So many of us are mandated reporters these days, and don't lie or say that you can keep promises if you cannot. Be transparent and let them know that you might have to tell somebody. And lastly, come up with a safety plan. Safety plans look different for everybody, and there's so many resources online. There's one, once again, on loveisrespect.org. But a lot of this is going to come down to breaking up when we come to teen relationships. So if you are okay with breaking up with that partner, that is all that matters. It doesn't have to be okay on both sides. Before you break up, make sure that you have talked to safety with people. Make sure that you have people that are aware of this situation. And being alone with your partner might not be the best idea if you are still with them before you're ready to break up. If you don't feel safe to break up in person, don't do it. It might seem cruel because we're told to have difficult conversations in public or in one-on-one, but it's something where it's just not okay sometimes, and it might not be safe for us. Don't try to explain your reasons for ending the relationship more than once. Anytime that we over-explain ourselves, that's time for people to try to dive in and break down things and try to convince us or manipulate us to stay. Ask for help. Chat with a friend or an advocate from us at Turning Point. Just because the relationship is over doesn't mean the risk of violence is. Talk to a school counselor or teacher you trust. You can alert the school. They can help you redo your schedule. They can help change classes. They should be able to give you those accommodations so that you can be safe in your school. And if they're not, reach out to us and we can definitely help you with those conversations as well. Save any threatening or harassing messages that your partner has sent you, making sure that we're saving those off our phone. We're sending them to someone else as well so that we have those. And even if the abuse has been bad and controlling, it's still normal to miss somebody after you break up with them. And I always tell people, trust your gut. If your gut is telling you it's unsafe, call 911, reach out to somebody. If you feel unsafe, that's what they are there for. When we are talking about any relationship in our lives, it does not matter if it's friends, family, significant others, if we're adults or children or teens, boundaries are such a big way to help make relationships healthy, safe. We give ourselves respect and respect for other people. Forms of boundaries can be physical, emotional, and digital. We can change our boundaries as we get older. They can stay the same. They can change with experience. It also can be influenced by our family, religion, or media, and it can be different with different people. I am not a big hugger with strangers or in my work setting, but I love hugging my mom and my husband and my friends I haven't seen in a long time. So it's different for every different situation. Here's some examples of those boundaries too. I'm not a big hugger. I'm a handshake person. Emotionally, I'm sorry you're having such a tough time. I'm not really in the place to take all this information in right now. Do you think we can talk about this at a later time? For a sexual boundary, I don't like that. Let's try something else. Digital, no, I'd rather not share my password with you. I hope that you can respect and trust that I deserve to have privacy. So just different ways for us to set those boundaries and having conversations about it. And when we're setting boundaries, really thinking about like what behaviors do bother me or make me uncomfortable, what qualities do I admire in other relationships, and how do I like to spend my time? Always using I statements and not you statements and being clear with our request. So as I said, I'm not a big hugger. So instead of saying like, ew, I don't like hugs, saying something like, hey, I'm not a big hugger, but I would love a high five instead, or I'd love a handshake. Really easy way to make sure that's on me and not has anything to do with the other person. When we're enforcing our boundaries, we need to be calm, firm, and clear about what we need and have reasonable consequences for ending or crossing that boundary. I have somebody who loves to text me when it is late at night because they have a different schedule than me. I'm somebody who's a very light sleeper, and even a vibration of a text can wake me up. So I started putting my phone on Do Not Disturb. Now my phone just sets that boundary, and they send a text to that person and says, this person's phone is on Do Not Disturb right now. And then I can address that text in the morning. And I've told this person multiple times to not reach out or call me during these hours, and they didn't respect that boundary. So by setting that up and not putting them in as somebody who can go through that has really shown them that I'm not available during those times. And that I will text them early morning even when they are now not up. But telling them I'm never going to talk to them again is not a boundary that I could actually enforce because they are a family member and I know I'm going to want to continue to talk to them. I've lived in a couple different states, and in the state of Illinois, we have some really cool laws that help support youth. So the first one is that minors can receive 8 90-minute counseling sessions on their own without parental consent or knowledge. If you're not comfortable telling your parents what's going on, you do need to have some conversations. Go ahead and call our crisis line. We do 8 50-minute sessions, but that is something that youth can reach out and get services on. This is also the same with any medical or other mental health. So once they are 12 and up, they can ask to be on their own in this situation. Though minors have the same rights to obtain an order of protection, they have to have somebody 18 years and older with them if they want to file. It does not have to be their parent or guardian. Us at Turning Point do prefer it to be their parent or guardian, but it does not just have to be somebody over the age of 18. And also in the state, law helps force schools to discipline for abuse happening outside of the school that interferes with one's education. This can be harassment, stalking, or abuse. So if a youth is dealing with texting or things outside of school, the school needs to be aware, especially if it's affecting them wanting to go to school or be a part of the school day. As I said, we have so many services because we are the only domestic violence agency here in the county. So first, we have a 24-hour domestic violence helpline, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. You can speak to a live advocate about what you're dealing with or a friend or family member is dealing with and talk through that situation. We have a safe, secure emergency shelter for survivors actively fleeing domestic violence. They can stay anywhere from 30 to 60 days, and we will help work with them on getting short-term and long-term housing. We have individual and group counseling for children, teens, and adults. We start our counseling at 5 years old here at Turning Point, and it's for anybody who's been affected or witnessed domestic violence. We have trauma-based mental health, which is the next step after our counseling. So after someone has left the relationship, they're ready to dive into some of the PTSD and trauma they've experienced. That is a great next step for counseling. There is some fees to that service, but there is a sliding scale, and no one will ever be turned away if they can't afford that service. We have legal advocates at the McHenry County Courthouse, so they help file those orders of protection I just mentioned, which is very similar to a restraining order is what people usually know it as, but it is something telling somebody that they cannot contact you, be around you, or be near you, and we actually help with that process on the 3rd floor of the courthouse. As I also mentioned, we have a partner abuse intervention program, also known as PAPE. It's a 26-week psychoeducational program designed to help clients who have chose to use harm in their relationship, it tends to be court ordered, but we do have people that also do it voluntarily. When we were, going through these programs, we realized that we were missing one program, and we actually added the survivor intervention program. And this is specifically for survivors who maybe they have been physically abused or been abused multiple times, and they chose to fight back or use harm back. And so they were arrested, and now they're in the system. So this is someone who has now chose to use harm in their relationship, but they're not the primary aggressor. They're not the ones that have been doing the abuse for a long time. So they didn't really fit in our program of victim or survivor services or our PAPE program. So we were able to make this in-between program. We also have our nurturing parent program. This tends to be used for people that have been charged with abuse or neglect cases through DCFS. This can be a court referral, and there is a fee for all of these programs, these PAPE, SIP, and nurturing parent. And then lastly, we have outreach and prevention, which is what myself and my team does. We do free presentations for children, teens, and adults on healthy relationships, bullying, and intimate partner violence, and our services. We are in 18 of the 21 school districts right now, providing services all the way down from preschool through college on bullying, friendships, healthy relationships, and just really making sure that we are having conversations around some of the topics we talked about today. There's so many great resources here in the county and in the state. So of course, there's us. If you need any resources on domestic violence assistance, there's the Northwest Center Against Sexual Assault for anything to do with those pieces. There's the McHelp app, which is a free app that anybody can download and confidentially talk to a licensed mental health professional through text or calls. There's the state hotline. So if the person that you're thinking of, or if somebody you may know is not in McHenry County, there's so many other great domestic violence services as well, which you can locate through the domestic violence hotline or by calling us, and we'll make sure to get you that referral. Then, of course, there's the national hotline as well. Here's that McHelp app too. And if you enjoyed the presentation or have any more questions, feel free to scan this QR code and fill out a short survey. It helps me do what I do for free and gives you a place to ask questions and just make sure that we're presenting and doing our job. I just wanted to thank you so much for taking the time to watch this video, and thanks to Living Waters again for having us to present. If you have any questions, my contact information is on the website. I'm always happy to answer any of those. Have a great rest of your day, and thank you.
Thank you, Elisa, and thank you for everything that you do and Turning Point does in our community to help with awareness and mitigating domestic violence here in our county. I want to thank everyone for tuning in whenever you're watching. These episodes are always available again on our YouTube channel on the Mental Health Series website, so you can always access them later. If you have a clip that, hey, I learned this in the series and I want to show this to a friend or a loved one or whoever, they're always accessible. As always, if you have questions, you can always comment them or message them if you want them to be private. If they're for a presenter, let us know and I will forward them on. If they're for us, and if you're looking for help or referrals, we've done plenty of those through this series. We're happy to help in that way. But as always, I hope and pray that you are doing well, that your mental health is thriving or recovering in a positive way, and I hope and pray this series can be of help to you. And so with that, as always, we're going to close in a word of prayer. Holy God, we thank you for Turning Point, and Elisa, and everyone who does such amazing work over our entire county when it comes to violence, domestic violence, dating violence. May bless their efforts of educating our community, of bringing awareness, of serving those who are in need, who are on the run and have nowhere else to turn. Empower us to support those who are in abusive relationships. We ask that, God, you love us to be in healthy relationships and loving and supportive relationships. And we pray that for those who don't have those things, that we're able to help them and get the help that they need. And for our mental health, this is February and it's been pretty overcast, so God, we ask that you, as you promise to restore our health in all ways, that includes mental health, that it is such an important aspect of our being. Again, I pray that if anyone feels the need to ask for help or doesn't know where to begin, that this series can be a springboard for them and a platform where they can start to get the help they need and feel empowered to ask for help. We ask all these things in Jesus' name. Amen.